3 o'clock on the East Coast, noon out west. I'm Ian Oliver, and this is Fox Weather Now. Erin, we've been tracking this closely all week, of course, as it's moving its way across the tropical Atlantic. That 11 a.m. advisory from the National Hurricane Center, its storm motion was unchanged, west at 17 miles per hour, or roughly the same. The winds were bumped up, 60 miles per hour. We know that this is an intensifying storm, moving into an increasingly favorable environment. There's that and something else that we're watching. So we do want to check in with Fox Weather's hurricane specialist, Bryan Norcross. Bryan, that's a bit of a what's that happening all of a sudden in the southwestern Gulf. And we know the sea surface temperatures are super warm. A couple of things to be monitoring this afternoon.
Yeah, I glanced over there at the satellite and thought, oh, and I obviously at the Hurricane Center they did too, and they rapidly deployed a hurricane hunter, which was close by. It's Biloxi, Mississippi, and they're out there right now. So this is the area where the Hurricane Center is giving it a 40% chance now of developing into a tropical depression. Now, honestly, it's not going to make any difference. This isn't going to have time, or is there an expectation of it getting strong? So this is a bit of a technicality, but it is going to bring gusty winds and heavy rain up into South Texas, and some of that moisture getting up into South Central Texas. Estimated 30 miles per hour. I haven't seen anything more than that from the hurricane hunters. And there you see the estimated pressure. We'll get the details when we get all the data from the hurricane hunters. But I can tell you what we have right now is they have not found a circulation. What they found is winds going in like this and kind of a kink in the winds, as you expect with a tropical disturbance or a tropical wave. They have all east winds. It's all blowing from the east through there. So anyway, nothing going on there right now in terms of organization, but it is a good area of moisture heading in the direction of the northern part of Mexico and into South Texas. So everybody there needs to stay in touch with their local forecasts. Okay, on we go to Ian. I'm going to start with what everybody wants to know. What's new about how it's going to affect the U.S.? So the latest cone from the National Hurricane Center has a 125 mile an hour Category 3, pushing a Category 4 here east of the Bahamas. And now the flow here is coming around here around the hurricane like this. This is going to put very strong surf and strong currents, long period currents pushing in toward the coast. That's very dangerous at the beaches and in the waterways. It's going to start here south of Cape Hatteras. And then when we get into Tuesday and especially Wednesday, it'll move north of Cape Hatteras and all the way to New England in terms of this strong swell along the coast, beach erosion, and so forth. So we'll look at all this in more detail. But let's take a look at the idea of the cone stretching out, right? If it were to stretch out, it would create this corridor in here. Obviously, the cone kind of widens out as it goes. And let's look at the models that we have here this afternoon. So there's the European model, kind of right in the middle. There's the European AI model, cut AIFS. And then Google is way over here, and there's the GFS. So you can see that the trend is to want to turn and stay well offshore and kind of parallel the U.S. East Coast, looking at the consensus of all those. And we'll look at that more here in just a moment. All right, let's go over and look at the storm. This is what Ian was showing you. 60 mile an hour storm is the estimate there. And you can see the thunderstorms blowing up, but it's not very big at this point. It is going to grow big when it gets near the East Coast, which is going to make a big difference. They're sending aircraft out there to measure the environment all around it to get the steering currents down really well in the models, and we'll have that in tomorrow morning's model, so we'll be ready for that. There's the close-up of the satellite picture. You can clearly see the rotation here, and we can also clearly see that if we draw a line kind of on the back edge of these clouds here like this, that shows us that there's dry air being pushed into this side of the storm here, so it's not in a pristine environment yet. Although we also see thunderstorms developing in these bands up in here, that means there's more moisture. So it's beginning to get into a more conducive environment as forecast. So there's the dust. It's still out there, but you notice it's a lot thinner, but it is, on the other hand, kind of wrapping around the storm. So all this is inhibiting the development a little bit. And here you see the water temperature. See, we're just in the 80-degree range right now, where it has as much warmer water and less dust as it moves forward in time and gets near the islands here over the weekend. So still this anticipation is that it is going to intensify significantly. So there you see the idea becomes a hurricane tomorrow morning on their current schedule and then significantly intensifies steadily as it moves north of the Caribbean islands and then makes that turn. There's high confidence in that turn. I know a lot of folks watch us in the Bahamas, and you're going to know there's a hurricane out there because you're going to really get the strong swells coming in from the storm. But there is very high confidence the worst of this is going to turn north. Now remember, if the storm is out here like this, the worst of it is on this side over here. So we're feeling good about the Bahamas, but you do need to be aware of the dangerous surf conditions and in the harbors and so forth here until this storm goes on by on Tuesday. Okay, here when we look close up, let's look at the islands down there close up. And what you see is, remember, this is not about who gets effects from the storm. This is about where the center is. Obviously, if the center is down here, more effect in Puerto Rico than it's if it's up there. Well, the National Hurricane Center takes all of this into account, and they say, okay, how strong might the storm be, and where exactly might it be, and how big might it be? And taking all that into account, you can see that in Puerto Rico, it's in the yellows and light greens there, so somewhere around 30, maybe a little more % chance of getting sustained tropical storm force winds, 40-mile-an-hour winds at the surface. But remember, the big mountains on Puerto Rico, so winds are stronger aloft, and then you have gusts on top of that. So we may very well have 60-mile-per-hour gusts, maybe 70-mile-per-hour gusts up on the mountain. So just be aware of that. This even though it's not going to hit you, you're going to know it in these mountainous islands here, even if the winds are only 40 or 50 miles per hour. So anyway, it's going to happen over the weekend. And it's going to happen probably on the tail end. If this is the center up in here and the storm is shaped like this, that's what the models are indicating. It's going to be the tail end squalls coming through with downpours and gusty winds. That's what you guys should expect all the way from Anguilla on across the islands, the Virgin Islands, and into Puerto Rico. And then it'll pull north, looks like, before it affects the DR in a significant way. Okay, here we are back to that end of the cone where this forecast is for it to be strong, pushing Category 4 there. Let's take a look at our 4 main models, the 2 regular ones and then the 2 AI models from Google and the European Center. And you see that the cluster more or less reflects the end of the cone, the uncertainty built into the end of the cone. Okay, let's go forward in time. That's Tuesday. Now let's go to Wednesday. And of course, the uncertainty spreads out some. And we see that the center of the cluster is right in there, kind of west of Bermuda, well offshore. We just have these sort of rogue possibilities over here, not totally ruling that out, but you can kind of count these things, and the fewer there are, the lower the odds. So it's a low odds thing to have a system close. You see some of them are just weak and die off. And here as we get up to Thursday, we just have a few left here. So very, very low odds that this is going to be a direct effect on the U.S., much more likely offshore and growing in size. So that's going to put a lot of water against the coast, Ian. So a lot of folks are going to know there's a hurricane out there, but we have pretty good confidence that nobody is going to deal with this as a direct hit. Can't say that 100%, but the confidence is high here this afternoon. No reason to think for us to change our thinking based on anything new that's come in.
That's good. Yeah, a big hurricane out there. And as you said, you'll know it. Those nasty squalls for the islands. But thankfully, as you showed us, that graphic shows it well. The core of those winds well north of the islands. And we'll keep folks updated with all the latest trends. That's Fox Weather Hurricane Specialist Bryan Norcross. Bryan, thanks for your insight.